Hello, everyone. David, so good to be with you. Where are you at this moment in time?
Well, like where in the world or where inside myself?
There is always multi-layered answer with your being.
Which goes very well with our Starseed conversation today, the
That's right.
multidimensional answers.
I love it so much. Yes. So I'm gonna hit record. Yeah. Yeah. Where are you, David?
Well, in the physical world, I'm in Montreal. I'm in Montreal, Canada. Actually, just outside of Montreal, I'm in beautiful nature. And inside myself, where I am, is just feeling really good and magical and excited and just looking forward to this conversation.
I'm so happy to connect with you. Look at my teacup with this giant horse eye.
Oh, I love it.
All right. It says stay golden.
I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, I love that we're here, and I'm curious to see what's going to unfold between us and in this conversation, and maybe with some of the comments that come in through the live stream. I
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear what's your highest excitement of the moment.
My highest excitement at the moment. Mm, mm. There's this, I just feel there's such curiosity in the field about our bigger self, bigger cosmic self.
Mm.
Just posting about star seeds and galactic star nations and cosmic self. I could see that the field and the collective and the community is excited and is drawn to this topic. And I just remember myself 13 years ago diving into all of these things and feeling really alone, feeling like I was like the weird one,
Mm.
just digging into DNA activation, star nations, Pleiadian, Sirians. And now it's like, yeah, there's just so much interest and desire. To me, that's exciting,
Mm.
living in such a fast, accelerated timeline. And at the same time, also being deeply present in this moment, meeting my soul allies like yourself, and just finding that we are served the same source. We're on the same team.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm happy that you're bringing this conversation to light because it's definitely something that I've overlooked talking about myself. Because for me, I'm so used to everyone who I'm surrounded with being star seeds, light workers, light leaders. Like it's our normal that
Yeah.
I never thought to talk about, the idea of, well, are you at that point where you're recognizing yourself as a star seed and you're looking to have more conversation about it and maybe come out of the spiritual closet? Or maybe you've already come out of the spiritual closet in that sense and you're just looking for more of your kind and more like-hearted souls to jam with and to have these conversations with. So I'm really happy that you're bringing this to light. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, David. And I just appreciate that, your command of language and the way you can express these deeply cosmic topics in such grounded language. It's such a gift that you have, and such a joy for me. I keep coming out of my spiritual closets. There's like galactic, there's this galactic closets. I'm like, this year I'm gonna come out a little bit more.
Well, that what that brings up for me, because when I was reflecting on our live stream, I was reflecting on just the idea of being a star seed, and when it was in my own life that I recognized myself as a star seed, because there was definitely a point in time in my life where that word would have meant, maybe it would have piqued, I was going to say it would have meant nothing, but I think maybe it would have piqued some interest, because it probably would have pinged something deep inside me. But it definitely wasn't my first set of language to use as I started to come into myself and awaken. And so I'm curious, when was it that you recognized yourself as a star seed, and what was that like for you?
The first time I heard the term matrix, it was like an activation code for me. And I began to perceive that I live in a reality that has many, many layers. And so my soul awakening was gradual. It wasn't like I was stricken by lightning and I came into my full, it was a gradual like awakening of the soul. But like all things galactic was a deep recognition for me, right? And I remember I met my friend and my brother Joshua, who was like my fellow alien. And we met and we started talking about extraterrestrials and different other civilizations. And he didn't look at me like I was crazy. You know, he actually was able to give me extra sources of information to plug in. Like the first time he introduced me to Bashar, which he's a well-known channel, Daryl Anka, who channels the civilization Bashar. And for me, it was just such a full body recognition that I wanted more. And I love that you brought like starseed is just a term to help ignite remembrance, right?
Yes.
It's not like a sect or a cult or like a role that you claim. It's just a code word. Yeah. So for me, it was that, and I was always fascinated by the stars. I would spend hours looking into the sky and just feeling this pull, like something was pulling me. I was like, and then I also felt deeply misplaced since childhood. Living on planet Earth was incredibly overwhelming for me. And again, I didn't have the role model. I didn't have like, who do I talk to about this? I just felt overwhelmed. I felt like I constantly had to guard myself, and planet Earth did not feel like home. So I spent so many years trying to check out of this reality and having a difficult time merging with my present moment. And feeling like it was a personal defect. I felt like something was really deeply wrong with me. And I think that was the when you find your starseed family and you realize that nothing is wrong with you. You are wired, your nervous system is wired differently. You do have a different level of sensitivity. And it points to what? The topic that you are master at, your mystical gifts, right? So it always just leading one to another. But I feel like, part of my contribution, part of why I'm excited to jam this topic with you, I see so many souls awakening to that realization, and it can be deeply isolating.
100%.
Yeah.
And I love that you use the word jam now.
I think it's your influence. I think it's totally jam.
That's it. We got to have a jam.
About that. So next time if we ever do a live stream together, I just saw us in onesies. We get to find like these white onesies, galactic white onesies.
Of course, you would see us in onesies.
It just would be unforgettable live stream.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm thinking about the people that are tuning in right now and what they might be thinking about and looking for, and and it's just such an interesting exploration, because I don't know where different people are at. People are going to be at different parts of their journey, and maybe some of the people listening know exactly like, oh yeah, I'm a starseed, or maybe they saw the word starseed on your Facebook or mine, and they're just like, that tells me something. Like there was that call, that resonance. And so I think it'd be really cool to explore I guess why you believe or why you feel this is important for them to know about, or what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's what do we see this life about? If we see this life as a journey of the soul, and then the soul has like one soul, many bodies, Like to me, I was always fascinated by reincarnation, the topic of reincarnation, continuity of life. And when I studied so many different spiritual traditions from all over the world, there was one golden thread, right? Most mystical traditions talk about continuity of life, right? So I was like, okay, if we have lived many, many, many lives, what are the chances that we not only lived on the planet Earth, but we have lived on different star systems? Because, you know, we grow and we connect and we expand. And then I dove down the rabbit hole into the esoteric science when they talk about every single planet in our solar system has consciousness, has a plane of reality. So there is a consciousness of Saturn, consciousness of Jupiter, consciousness of Pluto. And then the progression of the soul after we finish our training on planet Earth, the next planet is planet Venus, where we actually ascend to this next level of soul refinement, right? Where we appreciate arts and beauty, you know, and it's a different civilization, different society, different values. So to me, it expands the paradigm of seeing ourselves as these souls on the journey of adventure of consciousness, journey of expansion. As you always, you know, I hear you often bring this message to the collective. It's not about like hard work. It's about how much I'm willing to expand. Yes. Right? It's expansion of consciousness. So I love sharing this perspective because we rise or we fall to the level we see ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right? So if we see ourselves like these, I am this human body and I only have 65 years, 70 if I eat right. You know, this is a depressing story. Might as well just curl up and die right now. You know what I mean? But it's like if we begin to think, wow, we are cosmic selves.
Yes, you know, and what that makes me think of is a conversation I was having on my Instagram recently in one of my posts, where I was just reflecting to people the reminder of what it actually means to be spiritual. Right? You know, as you know, I'm very big on taking very mystical and esoteric things and making it very grounded and simple and practical, so that even our grandparents could understand it, or kids could understand it.
You have such a gift.
Thank you. Well, you know, I was inspired by an Einstein quote that said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And that made me go, okay, I'm going to explain everything simply. And so, as I was saying about the topic of what it means to be spiritual, you know, from my perspective, when I think of like, what does it mean to be spiritual? It means quite simply to recognize on some level that you are spirit. That's it. You know, and in the word recognize, we have recognize, you know, so literally to reintegrate into our minds, into our understanding, into our brains, that we are spirit, and that we get to explore what that means for us. You know, what does that mean for us as a creator? What does that mean for us as a being? What does that mean for us in terms of the way we get to create our reality and flow through life and just beyond the physical? You know, and that's really exciting for me. You know, it has nothing to do with needing to be a vegan or needing to do yoga or even needing to meditate every day or anything like that. You know, it can.
What about juicing every day?
Or juicing? You mean you definitely got to juice every day?
Then you're spiritual.
Only then. You know, it reminds me. I remember one time I had a client back in 2014. I had this client come to me, and he was this devout Hindu, and who was very, very serious about his spirituality. And he would meditate 2 hours a day and read the books and do all the things. And he was really trying to get enlightened and develop his spiritual gifts. And he found me however he found me. And he reached out to me because he wanted mentorship from me, and he wanted some healing support for his wife. And on our first call together, when he was telling me about himself and his wife, I just, you know, I tuned into him energetically, and I started to say, I'm like, I'm like, oh, well, I'm like, so you're looking for this, this, and this. And the reason why your wife has these illnesses is because of this and that. And I start telling him about their life, and I was reading their energy. And he was just like, how did you do that? He's like, you must meditate for like 7 hours a day and do all kinds of yoga and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, actually, I just play a lot of video games.
David, I did not know that you, as a galactic starseed, play video games.
I love video games. Love video games.
It's so cool. I love that. I love that example. Thank you for contributing to this liberation. Yeah, it's not about the doing again, right? It's about that essence, how intimate you are with your spirit in a way that is authentic to you.
Absolutely. And also remembering that, spirit in and of itself is a very playful and creative energy. It's very fun. It's very light. So seriousness and being very serious and rigid about your spirituality is actually contradictory to your spiritual nature. That's why when we do things from the energy of playfulness and fun and lightheartedness, we end up more attuned to spirit and to our intuition and to our spiritual gifts and so on and so forth. So that's why, for me, my play looks like video games, and for you, it might look like yoga or whatever else, but it's like, where is it coming from?
That's right. That's right. Exactly. The play, the divine play. Leela, divine play. That's how I see this whole reality. We come here for entertainment of spirit. It's like, here we are. Yeah. So what about you? When did you heard the term starseed first, and what did it activate in you?
It's a good question that I don't know for sure, because I was reflecting on this before our live stream. And what I do remember is, so I was I started off my path as a street magician, doing street magic and hypnosis and entertainment and illusion. And what illusionists are taught is that because we can mimic spiritual ability and psychic ability through trickery, that means that all psychics are fake. That's what's taught. And for me, that didn't make sense. Even though at the time I didn't know, I believed in psychic ability, but I thought it was just something that people in caves far, far away and 1% of the world had. I didn't know at the time that everybody is psychic. Everyone has access to these things. But the reason why it didn't make sense to me was because I'm like, even if 99% of the psychics are fake, they must have gotten the idea from something authentic. That was my way of thinking at the time. And so that was my mindset. I was very, I was in the realm of illusion and looking for trickery and very skeptical and things of that nature. But what I did always have from a young age, especially as I was in my early 20s, was this feeling of, I know I'm here for a reason. It's like, I don't know what it is, but I just had this feeling. I had this spark of like, I know I'm here for a reason. And, in my mind back then, I probably just thought like, well, I'm just here to be accepted and to, and I just want to belong. But when I trace it back, it's that feeling of I'm here for a reason. Pursuing that is what blossomed into me recognizing and seeing myself in these ideas such as starseed or light worker or whatever other language we want to put. There was something in that feeling that resonated with these terms because they were all speaking the same frequency. So I don't know when I first heard the word starseed or when that became relevant for me, because I don't use it commonly in my language, even though I resonate with it. But I just know, because you said for you, it wasn't like some like lightning bolt of awakening and all these things turned on, where for me, I did have a lightning bolt type of moment, and like it was very much, it was a gradual awakening, and then there was a lightning bolt moment, and so for me, it was a lot of just being introduced to, first it started with a spiritual mentor who was able to do things I couldn't explain. He was able to read my mind and to do weird energy healing things and just things that just I could not explain through trickery or illusion or anything. And to make a long story short, he ended up being the catalyst to that lightning bolt moment, where after spending enough time with him, he invited me into one of his energy classes, and he led me through a very particular activation that now I could trace back and go, oh, that was the DNA activation, but I didn't have that language then. But he led me through a very, very simple and very practical meditation activation, that just turned the lights on of my spiritual awareness and of my higher self-awareness. And it was like all at once, it was that lightning bolt of all of a sudden I was seeing spirit guides, and I would place my attention on someone and have a curiosity about them, and I would get a download about what they're like and their thoughts, and it was just everything turned on. So it was a lot like that for me.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I love hearing that story. And the term catalyst, I want to focus on that term, because I feel like, for me, David, I have always been aware of deep assignment. And like I was aware of, this is important. I'm here for a reason, and I'm here for a mission. And it's like, I've been aware of the spiritual mission, and that's what I see a lot of starseeds. It's like they have this code, like a mission code, begins to awaken. And if somebody doesn't resonate with the mission, I really like the catalyst, the word catalyst. So we are becoming the catalyst for other people's remembrance activation, simply through our presence and through our being, right? And from that being, maybe there is some other spiritual gifts and spiritual services and expressions and creativity will flower and start blossom. But it's I really see it as like being the catalyst, right? And it's so fulfilling, because when you see the beauty and the profound power, that spirit moving through you, being the catalyst for others, to me it's such a fulfilling feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think of the word catalyst, I think of, so in today's day and age, the word guru has become very slandered and frowned upon, and understandably so, because it's gotten watered down by Western society, and a guru has become looked at as someone who is above you, and someone who you have to follow, which isn't the original meaning of the word. When we go back to the Sanskrit meaning, the original meaning of guru, gu means dispel, and ru means darkness. So a guru is a dispeller of darkness. And so back in the day, you would have these catalysts known as gurus, who were embodied in a certain level of love and light that you want to be embodied in as well. You want to experience that level of love and of light and of joy. And because they were so embodied in it, and they've walked the path that you're walking, they were able to reflect to you where evolution and ascension can happen inside of yourself, so you can ascend, so that you can evolve. And and the analogy I like to give for this is, imagine everyone is a rainbow, a 7-color rainbow, but the average person, let's just say, is only embodied in 3 colors of the rainbow. And so they have a 3-color perception of reality and 3 colors of senses. But then they come across a guru, or whoever, doesn't have to be a guru, someone who's embodied in 4 colors of their spectrum. And because just being in the presence of that person, that other person is going to be able to stimulate and to call forth and to ignite that extra color that is already existing, but that has just been turned off for whatever reason, or that just doesn't have consciousness placed upon. For me, it's as simple as that. That's what catalyst is. It's waking up to the full spectrum of your rainbow with the help of star seeds and light leaders and gurus and whatever the label we want to put, so that we can, wake up to more of who we truly are.
Wow, this metaphor is gold. I am going to quote you, David Lionson. how many colors are in your rainbow?
How many colors are activated?
So my question goes on the dating profile. I have how many colors of your rainbows are activated?
I only date 5 colors and above.
Oh, I just love it so much. Yeah. Well, David, I also wanted to jam with you about the star nations
Oh boy. Okay,
and
let's
different
do
civilizations.
it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Have you been, and the reason I wanted to like dive into that because I have noticed on my starseed journey, there were progressively shifting and changing of the guides. So like I would feel being guided by one particular guide and then like a group of guides and then like they would shift and sometimes they would tell me telepathic communication or through the dream world or through the books or channelers. And sometimes the shift would happen. I would not even be informed. They're like, she doesn't need to know. Change of guides. So I remember, I think it was like last year, my most recent guides were the Hathors. And they are so, they start like, okay, it's time for you to learn how to expand through joy and through love and through being, right? And it started with me being drawn to the goddess Hathor and getting my initiation robe with Hathor on it. And then the Hathor started coming in. So I'm just curious about your work with your guides, because that's another very kind of like beautiful commonality that I see between catalysts and light leaders and star seeds, that we do have very direct communication with our star guides. So
man, I could literally talk for days on this subject. So yeah, my work with my guides began in a very unique way. At first, it didn't begin with the awareness of certain star systems, such as Pleiadians and Arcturians. Like that came in later on. I think as I embodied more colors of the rainbow, I was able to get higher colors of information. But in the beginning, it was a lot like really exciting training for me. So what happened for me is, so after that activation of that lightning experience I shared, and my guides became very visible to me. Like I would see them everywhere, and that changed over time into different ways of experiencing them. But in the beginning, they were training me. I always like to remind people that the purpose of our guides is to help make us a better guide of ourselves.
Oh, wow. Dear, whoever listens to us and shares our prayer, what a true grenade. The purpose of our guides is to help us become better guides ourselves.
That's it. To know how to steer ourselves through reality, to know how to deepen our own connection with source inside of our heart, to move as the creators that we are. There are friends in that way. And this is where it's so important not to put guides on a pedestal and as our superiors, which is something that could happen very innocently. I totally did that. When I first started channeling, and I had these beings coming in giving me this information that I couldn't have thought of. I'm like, wow, you guys are like everything. And I totally put them on a pedestal. And at the other but at the end of the day, they're our equals. They just so happen to be on the other side of the veil, and so they have a different perspective, and they're able to offer their different perspective, and we have certain perspectives that they're learning from us, such as like how to navigate in the physical realm. And so for me, my experience was a lot like training, because my purpose and my design has a lot to do with helping others embodying their higher self and embody their mystical gifts. A lot of my training was having my guides teach me not only just ways of channeling, but so I got trained in my clairvoyance, in my clairaudience, my claircognizance, and clairsentience, which is to ground that down for people who might not know what that is. It's my other senses. So some people are more clairvoyant and they see things. Some people hear whispers. Some people have knowing. I got trained in all of them so that I could help others depending on what their specialty was. So if someone was more clairvoyant, I knew how to help. And so a lot of my training was that it was listening to their direction, and at the same time learning not to put them on a pedestal. And if anytime I did, they would disappear. I would have no access to them, and all of a sudden I would like, what do I do as a person anymore? And I had to remember that I'm like, wait, I still have my own truths in my heart that I could speak. And when I would just speak from my heart, they would come back in and they'd be like, see, that's what we need you to do. We're here to compliment you, not override you. And so my training was a lot of that and teaching other people how to access their guides. And it was only later on in life that I became aware, like probably like 2 years ago, where I became aware of the Arcturians. And I didn't even know what that was. I never heard, like I heard it around, but it had no significance to me in my head. But the Arcturians made themselves visible to me, I guess we could say. And yeah, so my experience, to answer the question, with other star systems is very touch and go. I've learned not to give these things too much significance, too much, like it's special, it's significant, but I don't overdo it. Because I like to remain simple. I like to be able to be universal with everyone.
So much beauty and depth in that share. I love that. I love that so much. It's for me, I just love the most incredible sense of support that I feel when I communicate with my guides. And it's I love that idea of this understanding, like not putting them on the pedestal and not seeing them as these gods above you, right? We just it's truly they are inspired by us being humans. And there's a beautiful communication that can be established that is very supportive, that is nurturing.
The vision I just got from the guides was, for people wanting to understand more of the equality, is imagine you have someone guiding you through a meditation, right? When you have your eyes closed and someone's guiding you through a meditation, and then you find yourself in an inner world, and their words and vibrations are unfolding that experience for you. You recognize that the person guiding you isn't above you or below you. They're simply a guide. They are what they are. They're your equal, and you're just going in for the experience. So it's very much the same way, where your soul is in a deep meditation, dreaming that it's having this human experience, and your guides are very much like the meditation guides, where they whisper things into your soul's ears so that it manifests into this dream we call physical reality as synchronicities.
So good. So good. Well, maybe it's time for us to check in the comments and to look at what people are saying. And everybody who is here jamming with us, thank you so much for the gift of your presence. If you're watching the replay, and if you'd like to go deeper into this starseed conversation, and deeper into a topic of soul ascension, and the topic of what is ascension about, and why are we going through planetary ascension, why it's important. I'm actually hosting a free 3-day channeling event next week, and I will post a link for everybody who is interested to go deeper. You can join me. It is 100% free, and it's for 3 days. We're going to talk about all things galactic, soul ascension, and truly these archetypal stages, milestones. And I defined 3 of them, and you can see where you at and what stage, what tools or what practices or what understandings can be useful. And to highlight this mystical, magical being, David has an incredible virtual portal out of so many gazillion things that you do that are so magical. David has a magical portal. Well, first of all, like his content is gold. If you're inspired how this being shares, like if you just saw his YouTube library, it's massive and there's so much good. And then you have your virtual portal that started as a mystery school, and then it turns into a living magic platform institute
experience. Yeah.
So definitely I invite everyone to check out David's work, and you know, it just, we're here to serve, we're here to contribute, we're here to shine the light on what it truly means to walk as a cosmic self and living in the meditate. I love that your metaphors are so good. They stick. Andy says, I love David, especially when you two come together. Yeah. Thank you. Look at these beautiful souls. Thank you so much. Yeah. I know, David, I would love to do another live stream with you. We did a first live stream a year ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like a completely different being. You know, this was such a catalytic year.
Yeah.
For both of us, right?
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah. It's been lifetimes since that live stream.
My galactic pants have been stretched and shrinked, and it's been a very powerful, deep work. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for the love and the praise. I appreciate it. And you know, I was curious, you know, while we let people type in some questions, I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about your channeling journey and the way that you connect with your guides or the Hathors or whatever you feel called to share in that realm.
Yeah, David, it's my most natural extra sense has always been clairaudience. So listening to the divine voice, and so my guides would speak to me very, very clear. Like I would hear voices, and then my dream world is very powerful. So I would have these dreams that were premonition based. I would dream a scene, and then 2 days later I would find myself in that experience. And I think my guides were just showing me, you know, that link, like these are the channels that are we gonna use to communicate with you. So it's really, really powerful. For me, it was always the deepest connection has always been with Pleiadians. Then Syrians start coming through, and when I began to be guided to remember the goddess lineage, right? The Isis. So Isis for me was such a reconnection, and all the Syrians, because Isis is the Syrians connection, so the sound. So I not only would hear direct guidance, like for example, when I shared so publicly 3 years ago, I took out the breast implants that I've had for 11 years. They were killing me, silently killing me. That was a direct instruction from my guides when I was walking on the street in Hawaii during my birthday, and I just heard, and everything comes through the right ear, it's time to take out your implants. So they would just give me very direct guidance. So I start noticing, and it's a very different voice. You know, it's not just the voice of the mind. It's a very distinct vibrational signature that I've learned to recognize and really trust and respect. So it started like that, and then I began utilizing automatic writing. So that's another very, very gentle but very fulfilling form of communication. I've always wanted to journal. I was like, why don't I just ask questions and I see what comes through? So I'm having this conversation with the Great Mother. You know, like Conversations with God. There was this beautiful book that I was so impacted by. I was like, I'm feeling conversations with the mother, with the Great Mother. So yeah, it's just coming through. So for me, it's a dream, it's a
Mm,
clairaudience, and also the knowing. Like I will have a flood of knowing,
mm,
and it when we have that knowing as an extrasensory perception, I find it still requires a lot of trust. It still requires to trust the knowing and not
mm,
to doubt with the conscious mind, right? So my training has been deepening my ability to trust what I receive
mm.
and finding my kindred soul allies has been absolutely the number one way to deepen my knowing and to like, because it's so healing to be reflected and say, yeah, you're not crazy and I'm experiencing the same thing, and there is a reason why we've been guided.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, super dope. I love it.
Super dope.
Super dope.
Super, super dope. I think we have some. You do have some question. Let's see. Yeah, have fun, spiritual. Yeah, it's exactly. See my guides. Sometimes can see them. I think just comments. People just commenting. Thank you so much, loves. You're
Mm.
calling the soul family. Give so much. Thank you for community, spiritual support team. Yes. So we're just receiving beautiful reflections of our community resonating,
Amazing.
and it's amazing. And then like how we connected is because we both have beloved guide and a teacher of thought,
Yep.
right?
Oh, yes.
He's like, oh, you two gotta connect.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you used to come to me in my dreams. I remember when I
I
first, yeah,
really.
yeah, I think when I first heard about you, it was through a mutual friend, Alex. And, it was just one of those things like, oh, huh, she looks cool. But, didn't think much of it. And I think I saw you, maybe, I think he posted about you or something like that. And then you kept showing up in my dreams. I think there was like once or twice you show up in my dreams, and then at that, it was clear to me that I'm like, oh, we're meant to connect. And I think I sent you a Facebook message. I said, hey, I don't know what I said, but I basically said like, would love to connect with you. And at the time, you're like, I would totally love to, and I'm not available for that right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, all right. And I'm like, it's still gonna happen. And like I knew it was still going to happen. It was just a matter of time,
Mhm.
and it just so
Mhm.
happened to happen through us working together.
Yeah.
And and but it's but it happened perfectly. And so it just reminds me of that quote, when people say that like what's meant for you will always find you no matter what you do.
Yes, I love that, David. I love that. And you're just reminding me one of the other ways that guides communicate is my higher self will visit others in their dreams. That's a very consistent thing.
Mm,
And that is amazing that my higher self just showed up in your dreams.
yeah.
Yeah. So powerful. I just love it. I think we had one question, so we'll take a brief. I think we have a question. Angie says, can you tell us how to connect with Thoth deeper? Any offerings, we could make, any practice of that? Okay. Didn't you have
Oh,
like a
you asking
whole
about Thoth?
did you have like a gazillion videos about him?
I really do. Yeah, I documented my whole journey of channeling Thoth, um, especially channeling not just the fun but the challenges. A lot of times
Mm,
you see these channelers like Abraham Hicks or Bashar, and it just looks like that man. They start channeling it, and everything's so easy and perfect. It just goes. But what hasn't been shared, or what I haven't seen shared, is the journey to um, harmonizing that channel, and going through the insecurities that come up and the things that surfaces and the triggers, and it's like it's a journey. um and so yeah, I have lots and lots of videos, especially on my Living Magic platform, about my journey with Thoth and the things that I've learned through it and the things that he's taught others through me. In terms of how to connect with thoth, you know, as you know, Katerina, like thoth is a very interesting being. You know, and in my experience, well, for one, the second you have the interest of connecting with thoth, you're already connected. Right? And chances are, knowing thoth, maybe not all the time, but a lot of the time, the very fact that you have that interest was probably stimulated by him to begin with. You know, so my experience of thoth has been that he loves, as a magician, he loves to teach through misdirection. You know, throw like, oh, just go this way because I know you're going to learn that. It might seem like you're going to learn this, but you're really going to learn that. You know, so just the fact that you have the interest and the excitement around it means that you're already connected, and now you're just bringing more awareness and consciousness to it. And by speaking it out loud, just like you did in this live stream, you're energizing it and allowing for more synchronicities to support it. And so my suggestion would be to just continue along that excitement. You know, any further inspirations or intuitions that pop up, even if they seem really radical or ridiculous, pay attention to them and act on them, and just see what happens and allow that connection to happen very organically.
Wow, I couldn't said any better. Just so beautiful. And we are so timeless, David. 50 minutes just flew by. So let's start dancing away to the center. And if you, beloved, wanted to go deeper, all topic of soul ascension, starseed, galactic star nations, do not miss next week event. We're starting Monday, going Tuesday and Wednesday. It's just 1 hour each day, but we're gonna go progressively deeper, and it's free to join, hosted by yours, Katerina Satori. David, I love you. Thank you so much. And you and I will chat after we finish the live stream, but it was just, thank you so much for giving your time and your presence and your practical wisdom, your mystical galactic wizard you are. And it's truly a gift to be here with you.
Thank you. It's honestly an honor and a pleasure. And thank you for having me. It's truly been a lot of fun.
So fun.